Victoria's Homicide Squad will reopen the investigation into the unsolved murder of Shepparton teenager Michelle Buckingham. The 16-year-old's body was found with multiple stab wounds on the roadside at Kyalla East in 1983. And the newly formed Victoria Police Cold Case Unit has announced it will begin a new investigation within the month in the belief that there are people out there with information about her tragic death. Shepparton News reporter Tammy Mills has been researching this case for many months now, and the first of her series of stories are in today's Shep News. Tammy Mills, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
There are many people listening this morning who will remember this horrific murder, but I gather there would be many again who won't know much, if anything, about it. So for a start, I guess, tell us about Michelle Buckingham. Yeah,
well, you're right. A lot of people, the name will ring a bell for many people, and it's only probably because of picking up the paper today as well, because in my research, I think Michelle has largely been forgotten in this town. And Michelle was 16 in 1983, so she was doing what most normal 16-year-olds do. So she was a very happy, very popular girl with sandy blonde hair and freckles across the face, and she loved going out, meeting new people, and at the time she had some work at a Coles cafeteria, which was on Wyndham Street at that time back in the 80s. So she did her last shift in October and called in sick at 6:30 p.m, and she was last seen basically going from there to the Victoria Hotel at 7:30, where she spoke to some friends, talked about getting a flat because she was trying to get some independence. At that time, she had a minor disagreement with her parents, as a lot of 16-year-olds do. And she was last seen walking down Friars Street past Star Bowl. And she had a conversation with two friends, and they basically spoke about what she was doing that night. She spoke about going out and things like that. And that was the last time she was seen by, I guess, people from the community.
And it was a few days after that. There was a bit of a period between when she was missing and found.
Yeah,
in Kyalla East.
It was a good 2 weeks because she was found on November 7, so it was just on 2 weeks since when she was last seen and when she was found, because there was a bit of, I think, confusion as to where she was staying, because she'd obviously had a minor argument with her family, and had said that she was staying with a friend.
Okay.
Yep. So both her parents thought she was staying with a friend at that time. So it's just so sad.
It was a farmer, was it? In fact, or a local.
Yeah, a local farmer found her. He found her beside the roadside in Kyalla East. So it's Violet Town Boundary Road. So she was lying face down, wearing the clothes that she was last seen in by her friends outside Star Bowl, which was blue jeans and a Mickey Mouse jumper. So it's absolutely tragic that this has remained unsolved, and just a stain on the community, I think.
A local man at the time was charged with her murder, but that never actually went to trial.
No, that never actually went to trial. He was charged in 1988. And it got to a committal stage at the courthouse in Tatura, which I'm sure some listeners may remember a courthouse existing in Tatura at that point. He was charged with her murder. He was acquitted, and it never went to trial because of a lack of evidence. And that was, I guess, the theme and the problem with that original investigation was a lack of evidence.
What was it for you that led to an interest in this case? Because you've been researching this for quite a while now.
Yeah, I have been. I came across Michelle's name about a year ago, almost a year ago today. I think it was August, when I was in a car with photographer Ray Sizer, and we were talking about basically cold case murders in Shepparton, because I had an interest in that kind of true crime thing. So he mentioned Michelle's name, and I got back to the office and started to hunt around in our archives, and I was completely stuck on Michelle's case. Like, it's just incredibly wrong that that she's forgotten and it's been unsolved, and that's the reason why I decided to take it on.
And what's the journey been like?
It's been difficult.
I guess it's been ups and downs.
Yeah, it's been really difficult, but of course it's completely worth it. And I have this mantra in my head that the hardest things are the ones that are worth doing, you know. So I guess it's difficult in the sense of trying to get a hold of documents, so court transcripts and inquest briefs and things like that. So it requires a number of steps and forms to fill out to get a copy of those. So I had to get the family's permission to access documents, and it was just a lot of back and forth and hunting down people. And whilst I only talked to a handful of people in the series of articles that we'll be publishing over the next week, it probably doesn't give anyone an idea of the amount of people we've actually spoken to. We've spoken to so many people about it, and many people who never wanted to go on record, because there seems to be a silence still hanging on Michelle's case.
So Michelle's family is still living locally? Many members of her family? Many
members of her family are still living locally. Michelle had an older sister who was 17 when she was murdered, when Michelle was murdered, and she's also got an older brother who was 9 years old at the time. So her brother and sister are still living in Shepparton. Her mum's still living in Shepparton. Her father sadly died in 1988. She's got aunties, nieces, nephews, cousins. It's quite a big family that are still around in Shepparton at the moment.
How have they felt about your work?
Michelle's mother's been the person that I've spoken to about this, and whilst she remains in the background of this story, she couldn't be interviewed because it's too hard for her at the moment. It's such a hard thing to have to think about going through again, this being brought up yet again, because it was, I mean, it's obviously something that a mother will never get over. So I have their blessing, which is probably was the most important thing to me. But we'll just keep in mind that they're in the background when people read those stories. Yeah.
It's 19 minutes past 7 on ABC. Goulburn Murray, you're with me, Matt Dowling and Phil Guthrie, and our guest this morning is Shepparton News reporter Tammy Mills. She's been writing a series of stories, and the news today is that Victoria's Homicide Squad will reopen the investigation into the unsolved murder of Shepparton teenager Michelle Buckingham. This dates back to 1983. And Tammy, you've been liaising with Detective Senior Sergeant Ron Iddles and he's with the cold case unit now.
Sure have.
And I gather he clearly thinks that this crime can be solved even 29 years on.
Yep, this is a really positive thing, because both Ron Iddles, who's a veteran investigator, he's investigated more than 250 murders over several years in the squad. He's got a formidable reputation. He's a very good operator, according to not him, because he wouldn't tell me that, but several other detectives and things like that. So both him and the investigator at the time, Jim Fry, he is still kicking around. He's in his 70s and has been retired for some time. Both of them are adamant that this can be solved. And the key thing is that there's a small group of people that are still living in Shepparton who know exactly what happened to Michelle. And we're hoping that with the passage of time, it's almost 30 years, things have changed, obviously, relationships and alliances, and it could just be the fact that living for almost 30 years with a secret is a bit of a burden. So they really believe that this can be solved, but it can't be solved without this community's help, of course. So they're hoping that people will ring and give information.
And there is a reward.
Yes, of course. Of course, if it's not people's conscience, then at least do it for the money. It's a $50,000 reward at this stage. Well, not at this stage. It is a $50,000 reward. That was announced back in 1985 and it still stands. So that's for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of Michelle's killer. And the Office of Public Prosecutions will consider indemnifying anyone who may have been there or present at Michelle's death, or they'll consider different circumstances around it. So it's a matter of just having a talk with Detective Senior Sergeant Ron Iddles to speak about the possible options for people giving information.
All right. Yeah. And in that respect, I guess any information can be passed on through, I guess if people have got information, they can call Crime Stoppers. Yeah,
Crime Stoppers, 1800 333 000. You can actually ask to speak to Ron Iddles. That would probably be the best way to go. He's got his mobile on, he says, 24/7. So he'll be the man to talk to through Crime Stoppers.